Welcome to the Overwhelm is Optional podcast, where each week we find ways to gently rebel against the nonsense that overwhelm and exhaustion are just the price you pay to have the life you want. How to have it all by going small, part 2. So this week I want to talk about the importance of sneaking past your amygdala, the fear centres in your brain. Because otherwise, what happens is we get stuck back in overwhelm. And I think this is one of the dilemmas, is that if you're the kind of person who gets easily overwhelmed, then you're not going to want to do anything that's going to cause more overwhelm, because it's a horrid place to be. It's impossible. You can't breathe, you can't think straight, you can't be yourself. It's really hard to hear anybody else speak, let alone yourself think. It's hard to focus. It's exhausting. It's no place to be. Why we gently rebel against it. So having decided overwhelm is not for you, one of the ways to avoid getting more overwhelm is to avoid setting off fear in your mind, because fear is what your whole nervous system is designed to be alert to keep you safe. But it's what, once switched on, once that whole system is switched on, that's why you get the feelings of overwhelm, the really paralyzed, literally paralyzing feelings of overwhelm, because the system's designed to hijack your ability to think straight to save you from a bear. But in day-to-day life, when there are no bears waiting for you, there's just grumpy colleagues and a million things to do, and all of the fear and anxiety predictions that our mind comes up with. It's really, really important, I believe, to know that this is how your nervous system works, to understand what's going on. So to me, I see the symptoms of overwhelm, so the inability to think straight, the pushing your brain through concrete to mush to get your work done, the inability to really be present with those you love, the effects this starts to have on your body, the aches and pains, the held patterns of tension, the difficulties switching off and relaxing, the loss of the ability to really be yourself, to laugh easily, and just to be that fun, lovely person that you are, because you get stuck in that push. And what else have we got? Oh, there's so many that I've identified over the last few years. But that real pushing hard, like putting on that suit of armour and squishing yourself into it so you can get through the day, so you can hold your successful life together, which results in your brain feeling like it's being pushed into concrete, can't think straight, procrastination, because that's the paralysis, right, of fear, is, well, what do I do? What do I do first? I can't prioritise, and what if I do the wrong thing first? So it's just, you go round and round in circles. All the things, all of the things that we're rebelling against. So I see those as just symptoms, not signs of weakness. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're already perfect. And the process is not one of trying to be better and better and better. I see personal growth as growing into yourself. So being more and more fully yourself, which means loving yourself, knowing yourself, accepting yourself more and more and more. And it's never done. It's just, and that's a good thing, because there's nothing to aim for. There's just a gradual letting go of all of the ways you put pressure on yourself to be other than you are. All of the ways that you judge yourself harshly, all of the ways that you push yourself through fear and overwhelm to get stuff done, rather than looking for an easier way, a more you way to do things. So this is about major shifts from push. I can only have success if I sacrifice something major, as if we make this sacrificial state to the universe, we're then allowed to have a certain amount of choice and freedom. I mean, it's just crazy. Success to me, living fully, having it all, means having the space and the freedom to be myself, which for me personally means having work that I love. Working hard is part of that for me, because I like work, but it needs to be meaningful, it needs to be satisfying, it needs to be well paid, it needs to support the lifestyle that I want, and it needs to feel good. So it needs to be working with people who are saying hell yes to working with me and who I'm saying hell yes to working with them. It needs to be, it needs to feel like my life, not like I'm squishing myself into somebody else's life. It needs to not be compromising things that are foundational to me. So my values and my health, my relationships. Yeah. How does that sound? Good place to start. And then from there, there'll be lots of tiny things that represent that. And that's the point, because the having it all feels really, really big. But when we take it down, it's actually very, very small things. Often when I say to clients, so what would that feel like? What would it mean? What do you really want? Sometimes it's the smallest things. I just want 5 minutes to myself. I just want to be able to think straight. I just want to, one client said a beautiful thing. She said, she just wants to go and find a 4-leaf clover. Well, not even find one, just have time to just gaze and look for one. I think that things like that are really telling that actually what we want are actually quite small things, but they feel big and impossible because we get stuck in the not having them. And what we actually want is possible and simple, and it's available right now. So that peace of mind, that ease is always available to us because that's our natural state of being. So I always like to look at dogs for this. So dogs just go to sleep and then they're ready for anything when you want to go for a walk, or particularly when there's food around, or you come home, they're like, oh, you're my hero, you've come home. I love that about dogs. But their natural state of being is super chilled. Like they just go to sleep and then they're like alert and focused when they need to be. So they just swing between these two states beautifully. And I do believe that our natural state of being is one of ease, is one of feeling at home in ourselves. So instead of seeing personal growth as something we're striving towards being better and better and better, I see it's the opposite of just this letting go into ourselves, into being more fully ourselves. And that's quite, it's both profound because it's a Zen thing, it's not mine, but this is how I have embodied it and feel it. But it also can get quite complicated if you start getting into but what if I become lazy? What if this fuller version of me is just rubbish? I don't know. It's very easy to justify the pushy way of life. It's very easy to justify it because it feels like we have to pay. We have to pay to have freedom and ease. And like we shouldn't be able to have it for nothing. It's like we kind of feel like we ought to pay, like it feels safer somehow. But that's actually I think it's kind of like a lack of magical thinking. So if you kind of think of it this way, so you want your life to be magical, so you're going to need some magical thinking. And if that magical thinking means for a time being just playing with the idea that to have it all you don't have to sacrifice your health, which when you say that sentence out loud, it doesn't make any sense anyway. Like how can having it all mean sacrificing your ability to be present with those you love, switch off easily and be well? Like that's not having it all. That's the complete opposite of having it all. And how can having it all mean you can get to be chilled out and happy as long as you're poor and don't have particularly meaningful work, or you don't have any work? Like it doesn't make any sense. By definition, having it all means having all of the things that make you feel whole, that allow you to grow and expand more fully and fully into yourself. That by definition is having it all. It is being all of yourself, and all of yourself isn't a done deal. It's a gradual uncovering, expansive adventure of discovery of, oh, I wonder what I like today. And we can do that in really small ways. So part 2 of how to have it all by going small is to look at some of those small ways. And one of the themes of having it all by going small, one of the themes of the tools, the small tools, is to say no to fear and overwhelm. Fear being the thing that sets off the overwhelm system, and just knowing that it's really important to keep your nervous system at ease can be really, really helpful, because then it becomes easier to say, well, no, I'm not doing that, or I'm not reading that, or I'm not going to entertain that thought. I can have a better thought about that because it's really, really important that I nourish my nervous system, because then I get to think straight. my body works better and I feel good. And when you prioritize feeling at ease and having space for yourself, everything changes. But part of the battle is the fear that if you do that, you'll lose something, or you'll disappoint somebody, or you let something go that's important. You know, it's just like this fear of loss. We always have this fear of loss, don't we? Which does bring me to the mugs. It brings me to mugs and Glastonbury. So we have a fear of loss if we dare, or I'm just suggesting you might have this, just go with me. I know that I do. So if you think about fear coming up whenever there's any change involved because we fear losing something. Well, firstly, in order to have more of what you want, you're going to have to let go of something. Not just because having too much stuff is overwhelming, but because to be the more full version of yourself, you have to let go of the older version that was more restricted. And to expand more fully into being yourself, you have to believe that's possible, which means letting go of the belief that it's not possible. So you're always letting go. Life is a process of letting go. And in this, what I was taught in the Zen tradition was this idea that you're already perfect as you are. You're perfect and a work in progress. So one of those beautiful Zen contradictions, which the mind can't really hold very well together, at the same time, which I really like about it. So you're perfect and a work in progress. And the work is to let go of all of the ways you treat yourself or think about yourself as if you weren't perfect. And this letting go, it's not always easy because we set off the fear centers in the brain. And then as soon as we set off the fear centers, we're moving into overwhelm and we're moving into clinging, trying to hold everything, clinging really hard to life. And so for me, one way of having it all by going small is to find ways to let go and without creating fear. So there's several ways to do this. So just take from this what you will and obviously chuck away what doesn't resonate for you. But the kind of thoughts that I'm entertaining while doing this would be things like, it's no big deal. So I'm sneaking past my amygdala. So it's no big deal. It's just for now. It's not forever. It's just a practice. Just playing. Don't worry about it. Nothing to see here. So you're like, just sneaking past my amygdala. I'm not setting off the fear centers in my brain. So the things I'm doing to make these changes aren't going to create fear, overwhelm, exhaustion, wild disruptions. So often when we read something about how to sort something out in our life, it requires these huge lifestyle changes. And, well, who's got time for that? Who's got the headspace for that? And why does it have to be such a big deal? So if you start from the idea that there's nothing wrong, either with you or your life, everything's great, everything's always working out for you, you're perfect, everything's working out, it's an adventure, and everything that comes to you has a gift for you. If you start from that point, immediately some of the fear can go because it's just an adventure, everything's always working out for me. There's a feeling of safety in that, and I would argue that creating feelings of safety is essential because that's when the nervous system can just go, everything's okay, we've got this, we can adventure from here. Tiny ways. So how you talk to yourself matters hugely, which we know, but thinking better thoughts is a practice, and it's no good getting into an argument with your brain. So if you're saying something that's not true, like everything's fine when clearly everything doesn't feel fine, that's not going to work. But if you can get into it's no big deal, I'm just going to try this, it's lighter, it's sneakier. So it's always about finding the smallest, easiest, most you way of doing something. So that's the kind of theme, that's the kind of feeling, it's the kind of thoughts we're entertaining. And then from there, I'm just going to throw out some ideas of things I do. So I'm going to use mugs and Glastonbury as an idea. So I'm going to tell you the big thing first, and then I'm going to tell you a small thing. So one of the practices that I use and that I teach clients is that if something either needs to be a hell yes or a no, and not a no as in, and this is really important, the hell yes is big and it's expansive and you can imagine your arms going in the air, hell yes, imagine standing on top of a mountain just celebrating, hell yes, I love this. Whereas the no is not the same energy. The no, and I don't mean the same energy as one's positive and negative. They're both positive. That's not what I mean at all. What I mean is the no's super gentle. It's no big deal. The no is what is sneaking past your amygdala. So the no is just a no. It's very quiet. And this is linked obviously to boundaries work, because the ability to say no, or at least I'm not sure, or not yet, without it being a big deal, without it requiring a kind of shouty, aggressive energy of guarding your boundaries. This just like, no, that's not for me, or I don't know, not at the moment. So how can we practice? No, first of all, why would we do this? So if something's either a hell yes or a no, so I'm going to take a big thing. So I believe that it's worth letting go of things in order to make more and more space for yourself. So for me, the underlying thing is, how can I find the freedom and space to be myself, or how can I create that? So it's about becoming more and more fully myself, which means removing the restrictions, which means identifying things in my life that they're not wrong, they used to be right, but now maybe it's time to let them go. So a big example would be, for me, working at the Glastonbury Festival. So I've worked there for years, and I've absolutely loved it. I've been incredibly lucky, and I was in charge of 54 fire stewards. It's great fun, and for years I've been going more and more because of the people and less because of the music, mainly because I've probably seen all the bands live that are ever going to go there that I absolutely love. And I guess I get older. I don't know why. Anyways, this is how I feel. I was identifying that it wasn't so much of a hell yes anymore, but I didn't know how to let go of it, because I absolutely love the people I work with. They are my Glastonbury family, and I couldn't imagine not doing it. So in my head, this was such a good gig, and I was so grateful and so lucky that I couldn't let go of it. And then at the beginning of this year, I just imagined, what would happen if I let go of it? How would that feel? So this is another example of a really tiny thing you could do, because it's no big deal. It's not an actual decision. It's just a trying on. That's a really nice thing to do, because there's no reason for your fear center to be set off, because you're not actually doing anything. You're just playing. It's just a game. So I just imagined, what if I gave it up? So there's different versions of that. They could be, what if I take a year off? What if I stand down, I'm not in charge, I just work? There's lots of things. But I decided to go all in. I'd identified that this was one of those things that was no longer a hell yes. And even though I didn't have anything very specific to replace it with, actually I didn't want anything. This was the point. I didn't want anything specific to replace it with. I just wanted to create the space for even better to come. So I tried it on for size in January. Just went, well, what would it feel like if I gave it up? And giving up's quite fine, all right, but that felt like a really juicy thing to just sit with. So I sat with it, and all I got was utter spaciousness. I got this feeling of relief, of like, yeah, I got a hell yes to the giving it up. So I followed that. I sat with it. I spoke to my partner about it. Just sat with it for a bit. But it was never I might give it up. I knew that there was an excitement for me in that decision. So I wasn't sitting with it as in I'm not making a decision. I was sitting with the decision and the feeling of it, but before announcing it, because that is another way of reducing the fear and the overwhelm created by making big decisions. So this is what I did. And then over the right course of time, I spoke to people it would impact the most, and it was just lovely, and it was beautiful, and it was just so much gratitude and appreciation for the time we'd had together, and it was just lovely. It was just and it just felt great. So, and what's really interesting is I'm recording this just before the festival, and I'm actually super excited about not going, which is really interesting, because I could never have imagined feeling like that. And on many levels, on a mind thought-based level, it doesn't make any sense, because I could go, like, it doesn't, but it feels really good. It feels like the intention to release something that was no longer a hell yes, and the intention matters, doesn't it? It was to allow even better in, and I really feel like I've had so much good stuff come in since making that decision, because I've kind of broadened my horizons. I've allowed myself to be fully myself. I've let go of an old version of myself and gone, well, this is what I choose now. Now, that's the big thing. And to do that without setting off your fear is quite tricky. You can see all the negotiations I made with myself. My priority was always to do it without creating fear, without setting off my nervous system into high alert and then feeling overwhelmed and getting caught up in thought. I didn't really get caught up in thought over it. I just went with a very body sense feeling of expansiveness. I really listened to my heart and my body, and that's what supported my mind in being able to make, you know, this could be huge. At no point have I had I wish I'd not made that decision. Now, to be fair, I could reverse it. It wouldn't be that hard to reverse the decision because I'd always be welcome back. But it doesn't feel like that to me. It feels like a really nourishing, it just feels beautiful to me. It just feels like very freeing. It's a really interesting process to go through. In fact, it was worth doing just to discover how well I'm self-coaching and using all the tools I've created over the past few years. So now that's an example of a big thing done in a small way. But I wouldn't start there. If this is new to you, I wouldn't start there. I would start with really, really small. And that's where I want to come on to mugs. So this is fun. So when you go to have your coffee in the morning, do you just pick the nearest mug? Or do you take time to pick your favourite mug? Or do you always have a favourite mug, but maybe you're tired of that mug, but you can't let it go? Or what's going on for you? Now, or maybe you don't think about it at all, which is probably more likely. So this is a practice that I started doing because it was so small, it's unimportant. Now, the problem is because it's so unimportant, you could dismiss it. Please don't. There are huge riches here for you. So we make lots of decisions throughout the day, and it's easy to be quite dismissive about the ones that aren't important. So mugs are probably not that important, or maybe you've already got this sussed. But to me, what I noticed over the past few years is my brain going, or not my brain, like something deep inside me going, pause, choose the one you really want. Now, I didn't hear this as words, but I was kind of getting this internal message to just practice saying hell yes, practicing the no and the hell yeses on things not important like mugs. Now, I really like mugs, right? I really like, I don't know, this, you know, the feel of a mug. You have different mugs for different drinks, different times of day. I enjoy my life. But when I'm busy, I just pick a mug because they're all nice mugs, right? But there's something really rich for me in pausing when I have time to do this and just saying which one's really calling to me, which one's the hell yes I really want to drink out of that mug at this point in time, and then I'm gonna take that into the sunshine outside and just absorb the joy of drinking really good coffee from this beautiful mug that my heart's just calling to. And that makes the whole process of quenching my thirst or my desire for coffee or whatever a much richer, deeper experience. And this is the expanding into ourselves. This is the being more ourselves, because it's actually tiny, tiny things that make up our day. Like, we can make a big decision. We can start our own business, give our business up. We can change jobs. We can do this. We can do that. But they're big things. It's the day-to-day, moment by moment experience of those things, which it's now that is our life. So I invite you to do any of these things, like just for fun. So to practice the hell yes and notice the no, nah, not now, not sure. To notice that in your body. So feel your feet on the ground, allow your belly to soften, maybe allow your shoulders to move away from your ears, space between the teeth. Go to choose your mug. Which mug is your hell yes? And which ones are you like, I never liked that mug, it was given as a present, I wish I could get rid of it, but I don't know how. It's like, it's really worth, but don't do anything unless it's easy for you, or if you feel called to. Obviously do what you want, it's your mugs, your life. But just there is, I think there's a real benefit in just entertaining the idea first and sitting with it. Like, even if you go to a mug cupboard now and you go, like Glastonbury, like, I'm gonna chuck out that mug, I'm ready to let it go, this feels really good. I invite you to just sit with it first, to just, like, you made the decision, like I've made the decision about Glastonbury, just sit with it just notice. Because actually, and I was thinking about this particularly today because I'm recording this on my partner's birthday, and I gave him a beautifully made mug from a local potter, and I actually bought myself one, a miniature version of it as well. Now we've got 2 new mugs. Now, really, there's not any space for more mugs. So, but we treat mugs differently. And this is why I think mugs are a really good thing, because everybody has a different relationship with mugs. Some people don't care. Some people will only drink out of one mug. Some people are really strict about which mug have at which time. Like, mugs are personal. They add to, the feel of our lives. So I think it's a great place to start. Now, my partner has 2 shelves of mugs and I have 1 shelf of mugs. So I have half as many mugs, although I may have kind of snuck some kind of slightly joint mugs onto his shelf. But we're different. Like, he doesn't want to let go of things. He won't let go of a present even if he doesn't particularly like it. He finds that very difficult, and it's also not important to him. He just likes to have those things around, whereas I don't. I'm like, yeah, I don't like that, I'm going to pass that on. And I'm okay with that. I'm grateful for the present, but I don't feel the need really to keep things. I like that flow of things, like things come, they go, you pass them on to people. Like books, I think, well, I mainly Kindle reader now, but when I have paperbacks, I'm not always giving books to people because I feel like they want to be read. Mugs want to be drunk out of. Somebody somewhere wants this mug. I don't know. Anyway, today I looked at the mugs, my mugs, because I'm putting this new beautiful mug. So this is an up-leveled mug. This is a mug for me right now. And some of the mugs are not for me right now. Some of the mugs are a previous version of me. So I looked at them all and I thought, are there any that I'm ready to let go of? So this is and it's not that important, right? Because it's just a mug. And I actually didn't get rid of any mugs because I looked at them all and thought, well, first of all, I haven't got the time and energy to go through all of them, but actually looking at them, I'm pretty okay with all of them staying. And that's it, it's done. So it took moments, no big deal. And then I had some coffee out of my new mug and I'm really excited about it. But the point of the exercise is to do the smallest, easiest, most fun, most you thing to identify what's a hell yes, what's a no, but I'm just going to sit with it for a bit. So if you get any definite no's, you can just sit with it for a bit, and then it's not such a big deal. When we make big deal decisions, we can end up double guessing, kind of going back on it and justifying. There is a theory, isn't there? I don't know where this came from, that we actually make big decisions instantly and then we spend the next however long justifying them and pretend that to ourselves that we haven't made them yet, whereas we had quite a gut reaction to them. So it's worth just noticing that. I think anyway, I think this is it's a really good way of saying yes to yourself in a really small way that nobody else is really going to take any notice of. And if you think about it, if you want to live a life where you have more freedom to be yourself, then surely all of the mugs sat on your... What if all of the mugs sat on your shelf? What if every single mug that you drank out of today was a hell yes? What if every mug had its story, its emotion, its beauty? What if you loved every mug on your shelf? That to me is a really beautiful and easy way, or an easier way, of thinking about how we live with more and more freedom to be ourselves, how we have it all. What if there are no rubbish mugs? What if there are no mugs that you keep because you feel guilty or you really hate them but you don't know how to let go of them? What if this is just a really nice tiny way of bypassing your amygdala? It's no big deal, it's just a mug. What if that was a nice one to do? So I'm going to leave you with that one, with the idea that to have it all means to allow yourself to more and more fully expand into being yourself by tentatively, gently rebelling against the idea that you have to have all of these restrictions, that you need to be other than yourself, by doing the tiniest, smallest thing that bypasses your amygdala, doesn't set off your fear system, and is just nice to do, easy. Anyway, I hope that you are drinking from mugs that are all a hell yes for you. Have a great week. Thank you so much for being part of this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please do take a little moment of your time to share it, like it, etc., to help other people find it. And if you'd like to know more about my work, please go to www.tidymark.co.uk.